What are some of the ways we approach character designs? Let's talk about that live. Greetings, people of the internet. I'm Scott with CircWorks Art Labs. Welcome, mad creators, to the underground laboratory where we create robots, alien zombies, and other imminent threats to humanity. Welcome to another live episode where I am going to be doing some character design. I'm going to design a character here as part of this sort of exercise. This is something new to me. Now, this is a way to sort of develop characters, something that I think is helpful for a lot of people. If you're designing your visual characters, it's always good to create a story behind them, and a really good way to do that is through like role-playing games like Dungeons and Dragons and things like that. I am very unfamiliar with Dungeons and Dragons, other than just, I know what it is and everything, and I watch the cartoon, but I've never actually played the game. I still haven't, but I played a similar game because my son right now is developing his own sort of role-playing game with its own different kinds of characters and everything like that, and as he's doing that, I'm going to be helping him out with some of the visual aspects of that. So I thought I would just do some of those live here on the channel, and so it's, like I said, it's kind of like Dungeons and Dragons, but a little bit different, and I'm really enjoying it. Something that I've never done before, but just kind of choosing the characters and their personalities and all that kind of stuff. It is really a good exercise for designing characters, and I'm kind of surprised that I've never done that before. But this is very interesting. So and I'll get into a little more about the game and everything as I do the drawing and everything. But one of the different races of people, typically you've got your elves and your orcs and all that kind of stuff, and like Dungeons and Dragons. His game is a little bit different. There's some different kinds of races of creatures and things like that. But one of the types of people are sort of like aquatic in nature. Well, here, so I did this a little while ago on the channel. This is for his game. This is sort of the basic. I guess there's different versions. There's, I think, 3 different versions of each sort of race, and this is sort of the basic one. So I did this design, but in choosing my character for the game, I decided to go with one that's they get a little less human, I guess, as they go up the scale. And so the one that I decided to choose was sort of this kind of more like a shark type creature. So I'm going to do that design here live. I'm going to talk about some of the aspects of the character that I chose, and I want to get your guys' opinions on how you design characters. Have you ever done this sort of thing where you're actually designing a physical look in addition to picking out a character for like a role-playing game or something like this? But I find it really interesting, and I will probably be doing more of these type of character designs for his game to kind of help him establish it, as we right now we're sort of in the testing stage and everything. I'm part of a couple different test groups that are going on, one with myself and some other people who haven't played any of these role-playing games, and then another test group that he's doing of people that are a little more experts in that, and just to see if we can break it or whatever. And then hopefully, as this thing develops, it'll become a thing, and I'll let you know when that happens, if it becomes available or whatever. But anyway, until then, I just want to do a sketch. We're going to do that, like I said, we're going to do that live. So let me know in the comment sections about, your experience with character designs, whether it's through role-playing or you have other techniques and things like that. And we can create a discussion and have a little dialogue. But yeah, let's get to the drawing. Hey everyone in the chat. If you are in the US, happy 4th of July, happy Independence Day. So hopefully a lot of you guys have time off and you're able to watch this. Maybe normally you don't, but I figured it would be a good opportunity to do another live stream. I don't know, I may try to do these once a week. I'm not sure. That's kind of the way it's been, but we'll see. I mean, that might be something I do if that's something you want to see. I've got a lot of characters that I might design for my son's game that I mentioned, and this is going to be one of those. Last time that necessarily wasn't a character, unless he wants to integrate it. It was sort of that lizard guy. But I just want to give shout outs to everyone in the chat. We've got Naftali, Cameron, Keeman, Ewan 8-Bit. How you guys doing? If you guys have any questions at all, I think more or less I'm just going to talk about character design and coming up with ideas. But if you guys have other things you want to talk about, just let me know. So let's see. So yeah, this is a character. My son's developing this RPG game. It's called Fable Seed. similar to Dungeons and Dragons, but my understanding is there's also in sort of a more of a social aspect. Like you don't actually have to battle; you can just kind of hang out and do other things, I guess. I'm not that familiar with RPGs, but that's kind of how he explained it. He could probably explain it a little more. But so right now there's I guess I'm kind of looking at the, you know, I don't know what you call it, the playbook or something. I don't know what the term is, but I'll just kind of go into some of the. I was going to go into some of the different characters here. The one I'm doing is the merfolk, but where? I'm trying to. Okay, so here we go. So he's got it grouped into different races. There's the organic races and the ethereal races, and under the organic races, he's got Orthrop, dwarfs, elves. So there are some that are normal. He's got Fungari, human, Mongolian, merfolk, and Todekami, I guess he pronounces that. I don't know. And then under ethereal races, he's got aviary, celestial, crystalline, Coraline, decay, devoid, kitsum, and Mulgan. And I could go into all those. I won't get into all those, but we may get into more of those as I start doing more of these characters. But the one I'm going to focus on is the merfolk, and this is what he has listed here: a race of aquatic people who live among coastal regions or underground or under the waves. They are impressively. Is this right? Oh, they are impressive. They haven't. Sorry, I just can't read today. I'm gonna start that all over again. A race of aquatic people who live along coastal regions or under the waves. They have an impressive affinity for water. Their main attribute is agility. And and then each one of these races, I think he breaks it down into. I think there's 3 sub races. Let's see. I think that's at least for some of them. Okay, so the merfolk, yeah, a race of aquatic people hailing from the ocean. They have only recently developed cities on land, but are already making a huge splash in politics on the organic continent. And then it talks about their culture, their appearance. Okay, so culture originating from the oceans, their chance meeting with humans caused them to establish cities on land. Using their vast architectural knowledge, they are easily able to construct large castles among the rocky coast of the organic continent. However, some of their kind prefer to live simple lives on island chains off the coast of the main continent. For the most part, merfolks live in feudal society. They believe that structure is most important aspect of the thriving society. Their recent escapades on land have caused them to become closely involved in the politics of the continent and spread their political ideals. Okay, and then under appearance, we've got the merfolk are often humanoid in appearance, but with various fish-like features such as fins, gills being present on their body. However, and this is one of the sub-races here, that Cartharians, I think he says, I think that's how you pronounce that, are easily distinguishable. And that's what my character that I'm playing is, and that's the one that I'm drawing. He's a Cartharians, I think. They are easily distinguished as their appearance, while maintaining a humanoid shape is noticeably more fish-like with large web hands, prominent shark-like jaws. Their skin tones are typically shades of blue, but can range across the colors within the visual spectrum, especially when we're referring to the tropical merfolk. And then so under the sub-races, and I'm not going to read all this stuff, but I just kind of, I think it's a good idea to, like, if you're presented with something where you have to design a character, it's a good idea to get the background and everything. Yeah, Victor says Street Shark. Yeah, definitely it's gonna have sort of a Street Shark vibe. Hopefully not a little less cartoony. I'm trying to make it somewhat realistic, even though it's very fantasy driven. So the sub races of the in the game, the sub races of the merfolk are Atlantean, and this is the most common of the merfolk, being the most humanoid. They have easily adapted to life on land, and if you saw that picture I held up in the beginning, that sketch, that was an Atlantean. So I depicted them as having sort of like a fin on the top of their head, not like a shark fin,
but more like kind of that swordfish type fin. I also had them have fins on the backs of like their ankles to help them swim. I gave them more of almost like a Greek, like an ancient Greek look with togas and stuff like that, and armor. But the armor, a lot of it is made out of like kind of like seashells and things like that. So a little more organic, and then they kind of, I drew them with sort of fin type ears too, and sort of a greenish blue skin tone. So this one's gonna be a little different. This is obviously based a little more on a shark, and I'll kind of read the descriptions here. The Cartharias, the most fish-like in appearance, these merfolk share many similarities with ocean predators such as sharks and swordfish. They are often bulkier than other members of their race. And then the final subrace of the merfolk are tropical, and it lists them as laid-back merfolks with elaborate, colorful fins who prefer relaxation and festivities over a rigid political structure. That most of their kind are accustomed to. So anyway, and then there's tons of other, you know, things, and obviously you can customize your character and do all that kind of stuff. If you've ever played a role-playing game, you're kind of probably familiar with that. So I don't know. I think this is a really interesting exercise for me, somebody who hasn't really played these games, just to kind of develop a character like this. And most of the time, I don't know how many people, when they play these games, they actually have like a visual representation drawn up, but that, I thought that was kind of cool. Plus he needs some graphics for the game and everything. I've done a few of them already, but yeah, I just think this is going to be a cool thing to get. It's cool for me to actually have some content that I can put out there, because one of the things I want to start doing, I need to start sharing more on like Instagram and things like that. So I'll have other drawings. If I do one of these a week, and if I can share like the pencil sketch and then the inks and then the color version, plus I've got YouTube content, you know, I can do these live streams and talk to you guys in the chats and all that. I think that's gonna be a benefit to me, and also my son's gonna be able to get some artwork for his game and everything. And these are kind of some. I'm really impressed with what he's done with this so far. So we'll see. You know, he's been working on it for a long time, so hopefully he can do something with it. We'll see, and this might help promote that when he gets ready to kind of past these initial stages where he's just kind of, right now he's just kind of testing the game and see if we can break it or whatever. And but it's a pretty cool game. I don't know really how to compare it to anything, because I haven't played a lot of role-playing games, but from what I'm playing so far, I'm pretty impressed. And of course a lot of it has to do with the way you run the game, and he's pretty good at that. Dream Syndicate Art Dolls says, and that's Ryan. We've had Ryan on the show. He says, huge RPG nerd. It was part of the Nerdocracy. Oh yeah, because I guess he's the Nerdarchy community, which I think I heard in an interview that him and his brother started up. So, and I guess that's got a pretty big following and everything. So yeah, it's pretty cool. And I may have to talk to you, Ryan. I don't know how strong that thing's still going or exactly what it is, but you know, as we get further along with this game, and my son's getting ready to launch it, or you know, to the public and everything, it might be interesting to get your take on some of that stuff, and anyone else who's you know, who plays those type of games. So. But yeah, it's really cool. My son obviously is a huge RPG nerd, and you know, so he's been working on this for a while, and I think it's kind of cool, because I like some of the different characters that he's thrown in. I can kind of I know there's like, if I go back, let's see, to some of these other, because I've already done some sketches to some of these characters, but I mean, there's the Coraline. That's a race of like coral people that live among large structures beneath the waves. They excel at defensive and healing magic, so that's kind of interesting. There's crystalline, which are crystal type people, celestial people, which are sort of a race of angelic people, aviaries, which are more like bird people. So you know, there's a lot of, you know, like I said, you do have some of the standards like the dwarfs and the elves and things like that, and the humans. But you know, it's kind of cool to have, because a lot of times some of the fantasy stuff that I've seen, it's like, it seems like they have the same types of characters in it. And I don't know. I am not super familiar with all this stuff, but it seems to me like maybe Warcraft has a lot of the same stuff that D&D has, and vice versa. I'm not sure, and I'm not sure of all the different things, but it is sort of similar. And I think he was saying something like it's almost, part of it is more almost like a Sims type thing, or like an Animal Crossing type thing, where there's more than you can do. You can do more than just battle and everything. I'll know more. I mean, basically, we've only kind of done one session. We're going to do another one Saturday, so I'll know more. And if I continue to do these live streams and I continue to design some of these characters, then I'll be a little more familiar with it. But the first one, if you've ever played, and even though we kind of, because he was trying to get me to do like just regular Dungeons and Dragons once before, and just setting up those characters, it just took forever. And I'm like, man, this is taking way too long. So even though we went through kind of a streamlined version of picking out the character, most of that was creating our character, and then we did kind of go through part of that. And I'm trying to remember where it ended up, but we kind of went through our first sort of journey and everything, which is kind of cool. And we had our first battle and everything, and man, I was pretty strong in the beginning, but like I don't know what they're called, my points and everything were dropping, but I guess I got some powers back, and I think I'm back up to speed now. But yeah, it's pretty cool. So yeah, so Ryan says that Nerd is going strong at 90K subs. So yeah, deep diving our RPG systems can be time consuming. Was kind of hard when indie creators approached us, but yeah, okay, yeah, I don't know. This is all new to me, so I'm just kind of curious. I don't know. But so I guess I should kind of turn my attention a little more to the drawing, and if you guys have questions, please let me know. That's why I'm doing this thing, and the reason, again, full disclosure, I've already drawn, the intro that you saw, that's pre-recorded. The drawing is pre-recorded because, it usually takes me closer to 2 hours to do a full thing, from sketch to, maybe not 2 hours, maybe an hour and a half or whatever, sketch to, to inking and then coloring and everything. And I want to kind of keep these just a little over an hour, I think. That's one of the reasons why I pre-recorded this, but it also gives me the opportunity to pay a little more attention to the chat. So while this thing is just kind of running and I talk about it, I can also pay attention to the chat and talk to you guys too. So it's kind of this weird hybrid where it's sort of semi-live. I mean, I'm talking to you guys live, unless you're watching this after the fact, then everything is recorded. But I kind of like this system, and so far I haven't heard anyone complain that, oh, their drawing's not live or whatever. So anyway, I'll turn my attention sort of back to kind of what I'm doing now. So lately I've been doing most of my sketching digitally in Clip Studio Pro, or Clip Studio Paint, I think it's called. I keep saying Clip Studio Pro. But anyway, it's what used to be known as Manga Studio. And I just like the way I like some of the sketching tools and everything in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sketch it digitally, then I'm going to print it out, and then I'm going to ink it. And in this case, just so I still had the black and white artwork that my son could use for, because most of the documentation that he has, a lot of it's just black and white artwork. So I needed to have a black and white version before I took it to color. So I actually had a photocopy made, and I talked about this before. If you guys are doing marker renderings, alcohol-based markers, sometimes they will bleed if you print off your regular inkjet printer. So I usually, if I'm ever going to do a marker rendering, I usually go to like a Kinko's, or in my case I think it's an Office Max, and have like an actual laser print done, because that will not bleed when you go over it with alcohol-based markers. I have discovered that my favorite markers, which are xylene based, they will sort of bleed off of that too. So for this one I didn't use my xylene markers, which are the Chart Pack Ad markers, which still my favorite art markers, but they're a little different than alcohol based, but they do blend a lot better. But anyway, I'll talk more about that when I get to that. So anyways, as you can kind of see some of the sketching, and you can't see this, but I'm gonna sort of move things around, because I've got one monitor. I've got a couple monitors here, and one monitor, the color is so bad that I couldn't even really see what was going on in the drawing. So I could just kind of moved it over. Like I said, you can't really see that, but so now I can see a little more what's going on. But so I wanted, you know, when I was creating my character, my idea was I wanted this to be like sort of like the Rock Johnson type character, Dwayne the Rock Johnson, as sort of the shark character. So it's kind of a combination of like the Maui character and the shark guy, or just sort of the Rock in general, this big guy with, you know, maybe you know, Pacific Islander type thing, or more. I was going with I think they're called Maoris, and I think they originate from New Zealand. I remember when I went to Hawaii, the Big Island. They had this whole thing where they talked about that. I'm not exactly sure how that all works with Hawaii, them having come from New Zealand and all that stuff. But I remember being fascinated with some of that culture and like just the, you know, the markings and the tattoos and all that kind of stuff. So I wanted to sort of integrate that into this particular character design, and I think it works really well with sort of this shark look. And sharks are kind of a weird creature to kind of anamorphize. Am I saying that right? Anapomorphize, I guess, is more correct. And I've seen a few people do it, and you know, like the street sharks is a good example. But sometimes they just look a little funky. Like I think the street sharks have a much larger, you know, most of them is just the head, but I wanted them to look a little more human, so I shrunk the head down a little bit. And I'm pretty happy with the proportions here as far as the size of the head, because it's still close to human size head. Ryan says Jossum. That's awesome. But I'm pretty happy with the way it looks. There's also another, I haven't seen this, but I was listening to one of Kevin Smith's podcasts, and he was raving about when they introduced the King Shark character into, I think it was the Flash series. So I saw some of the images of that. So basically when I create a character, I use tons of reference. I've got Pinterest boards, and I'll go through and I'll start looking at stuff from all the Maori culture, and I've got a bunch of different things up there as far as, you know, kind of their clothing and their tattoos and things like that. And some of it gets a little more like I wasn't sure whether I should do the hair, and I did add a little bit of hair, like in kind of like a top knot there, and some of the kind of hair drifting out in the back. I don't know if that necessarily works with sort of the shark type character, but a lot of them had piercings and things because they don't really have ears and things like that. I kind of left some of those out, although maybe I could have done something through the nose and all that. But you know, I just kind of pick and choose kind of what I think works. And then also some of the weapons and things, as you'll see. I don't know really the names of some of these weapons. There used to be this awesome series where they would take they'd have these two fictional battles. I forget, if anyone knows in the chat, let me know. But they would pick these warriors from these different cultures, and they would kind of, you know, do this, you know, imaginary, you know, pitting them against each other, and who would win in a battle between this and that. I think it was something like the Greatest Warrior or something like that. But that was a really cool series, and they talked about all the different, you know, weapons and things that they used. And I guess if there was a regret on this, is that I probably should have, you know, some of these like the weapon I'm drawing now is pretty much straight out of, you know, what the sort of the Maori, I think I'm pronouncing it right, culture used. And what I should have done was, because obviously this is a fantasy world, so. And when you're designing fantasy worlds, you want some of this stuff to kind of be based on, you know, real things, so it's recognizable. But you should be adding a little more, I guess, originality. So I should have changed the weapons up enough so even though it's based on something from our world, it's alien in some ways. And not alien in the fact that this takes place on another planet. It's more of a fantasy thing, so it's probably, I don't know how you guys how you categorize something like a Westeros or you know, or Middle Earth or something, because it's not like another planet, and it's not, I don't know if it's another timeline. I don't know if there's a term for that type of thing where it's sort of like something that would have happened in the past, but it didn't. But I assume that this world is kind of like, or maybe it is an entirely different world. I don't know. I have to look into that. But anyway, so let me go back. I think there were some questions. Okay, okay. So Tally, that's great. That's a lot easier. It's hard to yeah. Okay, great. That's a lot easier. Thank you, Tally. And that'll make it a lot easier when I direct you know, a question or comment to you and everything. So yeah, gaining inspiration from different cultures can definitely be good for character design. Yeah, and I try to do that with a lot of stuff, especially this fantasy type thing. Like, and I don't know how this really works because, like I said, this one is more this character design. You've got these 3 merfolk kind of sub-races, and then you've got, you know, the first one, like I said, was sort of based on like more like a Greek mythology. This one's more Pacific Islander type, or I don't know if New Zealand falls under that category, but anyway, some, you know, I guess maybe it does. But anyway, but you know, so I guess it's just like humans in general. I mean, at some point, different, you know, communities and, you know, people kind of branch off and they kind of find their own thing. So I guess that kind of works with this, even though, like I said, I wish I would have done something a little more alien as far as sort of base some of the weapons on reality, but change them enough so that they're something a little more original. But the fun thing is, the thing that I like about when you're working with fantasy is you don't have to be so particular, because the one thing I don't want to do is like offend any cultures or anything. So even though I'm drawing from it, I don't have to be totally accurate, because it's a fictional character in a fictional world. So and sometimes you can still do that, and it can be offensive to people. Like I know in some of the like the Star Wars prequels, some of the characters there, even though it does take place in space, there was some stuff that was like, oh, this doesn't quite feel right. So I try to be cognizant of that and everything. But in the end, it is, I don't have to be so accurate that everything is perfect, because again, this is all make-believe and everything. And one of the things that I'll have to go see if I can find, you know, when I was creating the character for the game, of course you pick your weapons and things like that, and I know one of the things I think he had was like a grappling type hook, so that's kind of what I'm doing here with sort of the fish hook. And I'll see if I can, I know I let my son keep like my sheet so I didn't lose it and everything, so it was all in the same place. So I don't have that, but I think he sent me a copy of it. If I can find some of this stuff here, let me see if I can open that, then I can sort of read some of, no, I don't know, but yeah, I've got a lot of different, you know, weapons and strengths and things like that. Let's see. So again, if you guys have any questions or anything, just let me know. We're getting close to sort of finalizing the sketch here, and then I'm going to go ahead and ink that and everything. But I guess I can go back in the game. Let me see if there's something a little more, like if there's a little bio. So the name is the name of the game that this is for, and if you just joined us, this is a game, an RPG game that my son is developing. Let's see. So there's an introduction, and so it says Fable Seed is a tabletop role-playing game, a style of game which focuses on developing a grand and never-ending story. Fable Seed players will take on roles of unique characters known as adventurers and partake in adventures with their friends. And I hope my son, I don't think he cares that I'm reading this, but I mean, there's so much of this involved, I'm not going to get that much into it. But anyway, characters known as adventurers and partake in adventures with their friends. The adventures players partake in are created by another player known as the Game Master. The Game Master creates the world and adventures, and the other players explore in. They are the main storyteller and arbiter of the rules in the world of Fable Seed, which of course, you know, I guess that's pretty typical with role-playing games. It says, the goal of Fable Seed is to create a lighthearted role-playing experience where players work together to create a thriving game world. Your characters in the world of Fable Seed can be whatever you want them to be, from simple farmers or merchants to brave warriors and wise wizards. This is accomplished utilizing various skills provided in the game. By mixing and matching, skilled players can create wholly unique characters that fit their particular play style play style or the theme they wish to explore. Your skills influence how well people can perform certain tasks and allow you to unlock unique abilities and flesh out your characters even further. I'm going to skip down to the world of Fable Seed. Fable Seed provides a unique setting where characters can explore and grow. The world provided by Fable Seed is filled with various races, creatures, gods, locales, which includes lands inhabited by various mortal races and unnamed lands inhabited by dragons and other creatures. Yeah, this thing just goes on forever, so I'm not going to read the whole thing, but yeah, as I play the game more and I start to design more of these characters, I'll have a little better understanding of all that type of stuff. So let's see. Oh, okay. I don't know. I think my son just sent me. Oh, he just sent. Maybe he's watching because he just sent me some of my stats and stuff. So yeah, it's kind of hard to read on my phone, but yeah, let me see if I can zoom in here. So yeah, so let's see. I'm gonna kind of look through here. So equipment, I've got daggers, and it says ×5. I don't know what this is. I can't read my own writing. It looks like shrunken something. I don't know. Hunting dagger. So I got different daggers, which I didn't really illustrate there. And then I've got like skills like throwing, acrobatics, hunting, mind, enchanting, and contest. Let's see. And then under armor it says agile. I got foot armor, agile band, light armor pack. I mean, again, this is all fairly new to me. And then I've got an inventory. I've got polished stones, copper pen, enchanted ink vial, sailcloth, gripping hook or grappling hook, straps, 3 nets, trading cards, I remember that being kind of a weird thing that actually came in handy in one of our little battles. I don't know, it's some sort of currency, these little trading cards that they have in the game. Small trinkets and is it best package or beast package? I don't know. But anyway, there's all kinds of crazy stuff in here. But yeah, it's really cool to kind of create a character for a game like this and then actually design it. And I have a feeling that when I go to play that you know, maybe the other people playing are going to want versions of their characters as well. So we'll have to see. So anyway, so now I'm sort of in the inking stage and everything, and I'm using my I was going to say Kiritaki brush pen, but this is not a Kiritaki brush pen. This is it's a foray pen. I don't know if it's Kiritaki or what, but yeah, it's a foray pen. This one's probably my favorite kind of brush pen. And for these, I'll use the brush pen instead of like the dip pen, just because it's a little bit quicker for like kind of this live stream stuff. But yeah, so I just basically printed out the digital version of this, and now I'm inking it, and then I'm gonna finish this whole thing out, take it to color. But yeah, so let's see. Yeah. So I need an Islander. Douglas says I need an Islander machete. Yeah. So I mean that's. Yeah. I mean it looks like that weapon's more like a. I don't think it's a sharp weapon. Although I imagine with enough force it could. You know, you could pretty much bring it down on somebody and cut him in half with it. And this guy looks like he's pretty strong. So. And I don't know. I'm wondering if I should have added. Because you can go so many different ways with these. in the description it says that they're the least fish-like, but I'm noticing, aside from the head, which definitely is not humanoid at all. I mean, I take that back. I meant these are the least humanoid-like. This subrace, the kind of shark type people that I'm using here. But I noticed something I did on this character, other than his face, which is very much looks like a shark. He doesn't have as many fins and things as the other character that I did that was supposed to be a little more human. So I'm wondering if maybe I should have added a little more, fins to him and things like that. And one thing that I didn't do, which I think I will definitely go back and add, are like the gills, because that's very typical of sharks. I mean, when people draw those sharks, I mean that's something you see quite a bit, are those gills on the side, which that would be difficult. I'll probably go in and just go ahead and add those after the fact. Kind of the side of his head, have those gills show, because like I said, this character is supposed to be the least human. So I'll probably go and maybe add some more like fins on the back of his legs, maybe on the backs of his arms and everything, and maybe have those a little more like shark fins. In the Atlantean character that I did, those fins are a little more like you would see on, I said like a swordfish, like if you're familiar with the Savage Dragon character, he has that type of fin. So the Atlantean character I designed had sort of that on his head, and then also some sort of fins around the ears. But the fins on the back of the legs and the arms, they're a little like lighter. There's kind of fins that would kind of flow, like I guess like an angelfish or something might have. And then of course they've got webbed hands and everything. You don't really see, this character's his hands are closed, but I would assume if his hands were outstretched, they'd be webbed. There's a little bit of webbed feet, but he's a little bit more bulkier and everything, which is, I don't know if that was just necessarily my character, because this design, because I'm trying to design characters that are, I guess, sort of the most generic version of each one of these subraces. But for this one, this one is definitely my character. He's got some of the stuff that I chose and everything like that. So I might have to go back and do one that's a little more generic. Although this could probably work for the inside of the game too. I mean, I don't know how much they would vary, but anyway, let's see. Yeah, that was. Douglas says, "Remember the land shark skit from SNL?" Yeah, I definitely remember that. That's a good one. I can't remember if that was something they did more than once, or if that was just like a one-off. But that's definitely a classic. Let's see. So Tally says, "It's not really for RPG, more of a manga series is." For character design, I think about the name of my characters and their meanings behind it. Yeah, so I think I named my character Mako, which is sort of like a shark name, and it seemed like, I don't know, it seemed like a name. It seemed like it kind of represented who this character was. So that's just kind of the name I went with. And of course, when I was coming up with this character, I was just trying to get stuff on paper quick so we can move on to the next thing. So I could have probably toyed around with the name and did a little more than that. And I don't know if they have surnames or anything like that. That's something I would kind of have to ask about. But I just kind of went with Mako for this particular, even though I'd have to look and see what a Mako shark looks like. I'm thinking he looks a little more of like, his face is a little more like a great white. But again, like I mentioned before, we are talking about a fantasy world. So even though they're sort of loosely based on sharks, they don't have to be that accurate. And that's one thing I really like about that. So yeah. Let's see. And again, so we're live. So if you guys have questions or anything you want to know, let me know. And yeah, I mean, how many of you guys are from the States and are kind of off and celebrating Independence Day? I figured it'd be a good time to do this just because even though it is a holiday and people do stuff with family and stuff, it's at least I'm on Pacific time right now. and it's you know, so it's still early, and the 4th, most of those festivities kind of go on in the afternoon or early evening when the fireworks and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I figured there might be some people that that might not have the opportunity to watch this, you know, something like this. So anyway, but yeah, we got a decent amount of people kind of watching in the chat and everything. And so right now, I don't know what these little things are. Sometimes I'll just add little, you know, sometimes I'll give thought to, oh, this person's got, say if they've got like a satchel, what goes in the satchel, or things hanging off of it or whatever, or with just his, I don't know what you would call this, just like a grass skirt or a dress or whatever. Yeah, just, he's got like, I did, like the last character I did, wasn't for the game, but the one I did in the last live stream, he had like sort of like different vials and things hanging off, and like little bags of, you know, they could be anything, gold or whatever. So yeah, I don't know what say currency this character would use, but maybe he needs, because there's really he doesn't have any pockets or anything. So, but it sounds like, according to, oh, thank you, Victor, I appreciate the super chat. You got to leave a question. That's the best thing about the super chat is I mean, I don't have so many people that it's like, you know, sometimes the super chat is like when you've got chats that are just going crazy and you're trying to call yourself out, you do that super chat. But I'm trying to get to everyone anyways. But I do appreciate that, Victor. That's awesome. But yeah, so if you guys have questions, especially if you have a super chat and a question, I'll answer it. But I'm going to try to answer questions regardless. But it would be nice if we can get this thing growing and everything, get more people involved and everything. And yeah, that would be really cool. So let's see. What was I talking about? I don't remember. I kind of saw the super chat and I was like, oh wow, that's cool. And then I got thrown off. Not that I mind. But yeah, I think, yeah, I was talking about how it says that this before they kind of just, you know, basically lived underwater or on like coastal islands and things like that, and how now they're sort of more integrating into the society. So I assume that they have currency and things like that. So these are all things that I should think about, or that maybe you should think about when you're coming up with characters. Like if they are, you know, how do maybe they trade things, but even like these little things on his belt, maybe, you know, that could be some sort of currency, or, you know, who knows, or whatever. But that's something that, even those little things, sometimes you want to consider that type of thing. But I like the fact that this particular character, it looks like pretty much everything it's all very organic. I mean, he doesn't have a lot of clothes, but it's all, you know, like grass skirts and like maybe things that have been like clothing that have been like woven and all that stuff. And who knows, like, you know, you can go super deep as far as like with the tattoo ink, because, you know, you think ink like tattoos, but then you think, I don't know, maybe in this world there's something similar to like the octopus we have, and maybe that's sort of the ink that they use. So I could see them maybe capturing these like octopuses and using them for their ink, or milking them for their ink and using that as tattoos. But you can go super deep. I mean, it's really fun to just really go in depth on these characters and what makes them tick and everything. And it's not necessary. Like a lot of things that I say, you know, one of the things that I tell people all the time. And I even told my son this when he was starting to create this game, is like, you know, well, it's a little different when you're developing a game like this, but a lot of people spend so much time world building and all this that they never get around to actually making it. So even though it took them a long time to put this thing together, and it is a different story, because that's basically what it is when you're developing an RPG game, is world building. But if you're doing comics and things, it's very interesting, it's very fun to get involved in the minutia of all the world building and all that kind of stuff. But just don't let that, you know, stop you from producing something. So I always say, you know, do something simple first. But once you get in the habit of putting things out there and everything, and you're getting work out there, and start with smaller projects, then you can start to go a little deeper, and you can really get involved in figuring out all this stuff. because it is really cool. Victor says his plan is to throw me off topic. That's great. Yeah, I don't mind. But anyway, so yeah, it's kind of cool. So, you know, like what else looking at this character, and sometimes I'll just throw things in that I either have gathered from my different, you know, doing some research and gathering different references, and sometimes I don't even really know exactly what it is. Like, I don't know, I would probably, also the other thing that I will mention, this is kind of an aside, but anytime you're designing a character with tattoos, if you're doing sequential art and you're doing, you know, if this is a character that's going to be a reoccurring character, you know, keep that in mind when you put a lot of tattoos and a lot of details like that, because you're going to have to draw that in every instance and probably try to keep it fairly accurate. So I didn't want to get too involved in all that stuff, but in looking at some of these designs, there were some really, really interesting tattoos with sort of like, I don't know, I know like those Oni characters, like those masks, I know those are I think those are a little more Asian in origin, or you know, but they had a lot of that type of look. It was a little different, but so I thought about integrating that, like having sort of this, you know, sort of tribal looking masks integrated into the tattoos and all this other stuff, but in the end I'm like, yeah, that might be a little complicated if I had to recreate this character. So I didn't go too crazy with all that stuff, but there's some really interesting, really intricate artwork that I could have done on this character if I wanted to. All right, so let's see. Let's go back to the chat here. So Ryan from Dream Syndicate Art Doll says, if you're creating a new RPG system, the most important thing is making sure the system's user-friendly. Yeah, definitely. And that's one thing, I don't remember if I mentioned this in the intro, but so my son right now is running 2 different campaigns, and he's running one with people who have never played any RPGs at all, myself included, and my brother. And then my other son is involved too, but I think he's probably played those games before, but at least there's the bulk of the people have never played at all. And then he's running another campaign with people that are a lot more experienced. So, and I think that makes a lot of sense, because for somebody like me who's just jumping into it, you know, I don't really understand a lot of that, and I'm starting to pick it up. So I think that's definitely something you want to consider when doing that. So that's definitely a good tip. And Ryan also says there are tons of kind of generic open source systems that anyone can map their world building onto. Okay, that's interesting too. Yeah, I'm getting more fascinated by all this stuff as you know, as I start designing these characters and just playing the game and everything. And I'll have to see, you know, again, this is sort of an experiment for me, and it's just it's giving me the opportunity to kind of create some cool artwork, because it's been since I used to design like social games and stuff since I really got into all these kind of crazy like fantasy worlds and things like that, because my comic for the most part takes place on Earth. It's sort of I guess you could call it an alternate reality where there was a zombie outbreak in the 80s and it's kids and everything, but it doesn't, the lore and everything doesn't go into as much as this game or any of this stuff that I've done in the past. So this is kind of fun for me to kind of do, and it's an exercise and gives me a chance to kind of create some interesting characters. Let's see. So Ryan also says, if someone's main aim is creating a world, sometimes it's way better to just find a system that'll support the game world that you want to play in. Yeah, that's interesting too. So Tally wants to know, is the shark part of a tribe? Yeah, I would assume, I mean, just with the markings and stuff, this has to be sort of, you know, some sort of tribe that they're part of. Now, whether this whole subrace of, I keep forgetting what they're called, and it has something to do with whatever species sharks are actually from. I think that's where the name comes from, and I'm not familiar with that. My kids, my 2 boys, they, you know, when they were younger, they were into all the, you know, different animals and dinosaurs, and they could name all, you know, all these different, what all these different dinosaurs are from, and all the you know, who discovered them, and all, and basically the genealogy of all these different characters. So they know a lot more about that stuff than me. But what was it, like Carthians or something like that? This race, I assume it would kind of split up, and there would be different tribes within that kind of race of shark people. But yeah, so I don't know, but I would imagine, and these are all good questions, because this has something that I can go back and I can kind of talk to my son about and see what he says. And some of this might actually be in this documentation. I just haven't read through it, because it's just, this thing is just massive. It just goes on and on about all this different stuff. But as I continue to play, I'll get a little more familiar with it, and I'll know a little more about that. But I could see what I okay, yeah. So, okay. So that my son is actually, yeah. He put it in there. So it's CHARCHARIAS. Carcarians, I guess. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Anyway, so hey Parker. Yeah, Parker is my son. He's in the chat. He's Cold Echo. So that's his game. If you guys have questions, you can ask him in the chat. Let's see. And but yeah, I would imagine, and you know, he can maybe answer some of these questions for me. But as far as if there's different tribes and things, I don't know if these would all be the same. Like, is it possible that there could also be like a hammerhead type version of one of these Carcarias, or maybe like, I'm trying to think what other. There's all kinds of weird shit. Like there's like sort of those. The ones that look like they have horns, like, I don't know if they're like almost like a rhinoceros. There's different kinds of, obviously there's different kinds of sharks that, you know, we could we could create for this game or whatever. I don't know how different they get. And some of that, I guess, because it is, I mean, largely like Ryan was saying, you're kind of creating this as you go. So I mean, you can kind of, I think you can add some of your own things to some of these characters, what you think they look like and everything. But yeah, it's super interesting. Let's see. Okay, so Douglas says a hermit crab trader type would be really cool. Yeah, I think there are. I'm wondering if there. Let me go back into the list of people. Like there's probably some kind of crustacean creatures in here. Let me see if I can find. I may have passed it here. I'm looking for the no. Let me scroll through here, see if I can find. I'm in equipment now. Where are the different races? Hold on. And this thing, like I said, okay, so let's see. There's crystal people. So I guess the Coraline, those are more like coral people. I'm not sure if there are, let's see. There's like a race of fox people, a race of mole people. The devoid are a race of shadow people who live any and everywhere, are unable to control shapes. So I guess they're more like kind of like. Oh no, that's something else. There's the decay, which are a race of cursed people, and I think they're almost like a zombie race who live among harsh climates and the surface world. They have highly resilient bodies and control lost magics. Their main attribute is vitality. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure if I see any creatures that are like crab type creatures. Let's see. There's in the organic races, there's the orthrop, which are more like insect people, the fungaria, which are like a fungus people. Let's see. And then there's the tortakami, which are like a tortoise people. So I don't see any crustacean people, but that might be something just cool that that I could just do as a separate character, because that would be kind of cool. So yeah, Parker says, I like the sound of that. I was dabbling with the idea of having the orthrop insect people and merfolk people breed and make shellfish, but it's kind of open if you can if you want. That mainly comes down to character flavor, he says. So, yeah, I do like that idea, but that would be, and I've done, I was working on the big game I used to work on when I was doing social games was called Miscrits, and it was sort of kind of a Pokemon style battle game with just, you know, a bunch of different creatures that evolved and all that stuff. And I had a character called, what was his name? Now I can't believe I'm forgetting. Oh, it was called, there was one that, there was different, like I said, there's different evolutions. One was her metal crab. One was, I forgot what the, I think Pranja, it started off as sort of like a prawn, and then I don't even know if I can find this because the game's not live anymore. I'm trying to remember what it was Pranja, and then he went into more like a hermit crab thing, and then he just got, you know, bigger, and then it would turn into more of like a lobster type guy. But yeah, so I remember kind of designing that character. That was kind of a cool character design, and I could definitely see, you know, doing something like, you know, a character like that, even if it's not for this game. That would be kind of cool. So anyway, so now we're on to, I'm just kind of filling in some of the color and everything, and it mentioned in the description that they're a little, you know, the skin color's typically blue, which I am going to add some blue to, but I want to start off with sort of a gray, because when I did the Atlantean version, I did a very kind of aqua blue color, so I want him to be a little bit different, and I want him to kind of have that kind of like the Great Whites, how they kind of have that their underbody is sort of white. So I'm going to do that, like his sort of chest and under the chin is going to be a little, you know, I'm going to kind of keep that a little white, and then I'll start to add a little more blue to the gray, so he'll have kind of a bluish gray look. But I am interested, you know, I want to get to eventually I want to do all these different characters, but I think, because so far the mer people are the one I've done the most of, because I've done one version of the insect people, I've done one version of the fungus people, the tortoise people, but this is the only one I've ever done two of. So I've done the Atlantean and the Cacarias, whatever. This one that I'm drawing now. So, but I am interested. I've already in my mind, I'm thinking of the other one, which is more like the where is that? I forgot what it was. I think it was. Where are we here? Hold on a second. Okay, yeah, the tropical. That would be pretty fun to do, because you can just get really crazy with colors and stuff like that. And with those ones, I just imagine them having just really like beautiful fins coming off and everything. So that's going to be a fun one to kind of design when I get around to that. And it says that they're more they prefer relaxation and festivities and things, so I would picture them maybe not so much with weapons, but I might have them with like either like sort of like a pan flute, or like some kind of musical instrument, or something along that, or maybe even, I don't know, maybe even some kind of a game or something. It seems like be interesting. That's one that I really like to explore a little more. Let's see. So I'll read. So this is sort of a conversation that's going on, but hope they don't mind I read it. Let's see. So Ryan's saying, hey, you know, you could develop a fantasy world meant to cater to a furry community. Not my jam, but I imagine there's a fair amount of RPG furry crossover. And then Parker says, that's not really my jam either, even though I have a lot of different animal-like races. So yeah. But yeah, that's pretty cool. That's cool that you guys are talking, because, you know, Ryan's got a lot of, you know, obviously background with that kind of stuff, and the community that him and his brother built and everything. So yeah, so I mean, hopefully, I'm hoping that as this game continues to develop, and if I kind of share some of these designs and everything, eventually, you know, whatever he's planning on doing with the game, if he launches it, does like a Kickstarter. I don't know if you could do a Kickstarter. I don't know how that all works, but I'd like for him to be able to do something with it, you know, because he put a lot of time into it. So if I can help, that's kind of what I'm doing. But anyway, but I know these type of things are hard to do. But it is, you know, and again, I don't have anything to compare it to, but so far it's kind of fun, and I'm actually looking forward to Saturday when we do our second part of this. So so anyway, so I'm just kind of going in and adding some of the shadows under the whites, and then I'm going to go in now. You know, I got some of the grays in there, and then I want to add some color, like some greens to the leaves and some browns and things like that, kind of have them pop out a little more. So yeah, it's interesting, and I'm curious to get you know, my son's perspective on how he likes the looks of these, if that's kind of what he imagines. Because it's always interesting when you are designing character for somebody else. You know, what did they picture? Do they picture kind of what you're drawing? Is what you're coming up with something like, oh man, I didn't even think it could be like that, that's really cool, or like, oh, I kind of imagined it to be a little more like this. So it's always cool when you're designing stuff like that. Let's see. So I'm just kind of, again, reading some of the, you know, Tally's asking what, you know, what made him decide to create the game, and then Parker is responding. I'm saying Parker because that's his name. Cold Echo is what he goes by. So I kind of spurred the moment. I just felt like making a world, then wanted a role-playing game tailored to my particular taste. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool. So let's see, yeah, now I'm gonna go just kind of filling in some of the ink and everything on some of these tattoos, and yeah, I don't know. I mean, as far as sort of a first pass on this character, like, I don't know, maybe I should have done a little more with the tattoos, but I think it'll look kind of cool. Let's see. Victor wants to know if I'm going to the Independent Comics Show on July 20th. To be honest, I haven't heard anything about that. So if you want to, is that something that you would exhibit at? I mean, I don't know if I'm really looking to exhibit at any more conventions recently, but I'm always up for kind of going and checking things out. So I don't know, Victor, if you want to send me the info on that, I'll check it out and see what it's about. Somebody, you know what? Somebody did send me. Oh, what was it? There was a convention a while back, and I can't remember. They sent it to me like a couple days before, wanting to know if I could exhibit, and I had already had plans and everything. But it seemed like it was focused a little more on cosplay, and I don't know if they were like inviting me, but yeah, I'm kind of right now. I'm kind of at this stage where if I exhibit at a con or whatever, they'll probably have to like invite me, because you know all the costs and everything. It's more even than the cost. It's just the amount of time that it takes, because at a 4-day show, I do so much prep and everything, and when I start to analyze how much money am I really pulling in when you consider all the time that goes into it, so I'm looking at different avenues. But I do kind of want to start going to conventions. I don't know, next time Phoenix Fan Fusion or whatever rolls around, which is the big one here in Arizona, I may just go. Like I've got a costume that I did of Khan from the Wrath of Khan, so I may just go and cosplay. I designed that costume for like a Halloween costume, and I've never really like technically cosplayed. I've always been way into Halloween and coming up with cool Halloween costumes, but I've never actually like gone to a show in costume. So maybe I'll do that, because I don't know if I'll be exhibiting there unless they invite me, like I said. But so anyway, so now I'm going. I got the chameleon markers, and these are those color changing markers, and I'm just using pretty much any. I use pretty much any kind of marker I get my hands on, mostly alcohol based or the xylene based, which as I mentioned earlier, those ones tend to kind of smudge a little when I'm going over this, which is a laser printout, but the alcohol based don't seem to do that. But so I've got some Artist Loft, I've got some Copics, I've got the chameleons, and just whatever else, whatever colors I have. Yeah, I probably need to get some refills for my Copics, because some of them are going dry, but it's almost like, okay, well, my Copic of this color is dry, but I've got another brand of marker that's close enough, so I'll just use that. So it's almost like I've got so many different markers that it's like if I run out, I don't get the refills, I just go ahead and just pull out another brand or something. Yeah, Victor, just go ahead and DM me about that, and I'll check it out. Are you going to that? I don't know if it's yeah, I'm interested. It seems to be a lot more comic conventions going on here in Arizona. It wasn't like, because before I know people who live in in Southern California. It just seems like every weekend there's a different con. So so I don't know. I'm kind of digging more just the store signings. I've been doing store signings at my local comic store, and it's kind of fun because it's like a one-day thing. You get to interact with people. You get to do just do some commissions and things like that, and it's fun. So I'm gonna do when the Kickstarter. I know my local comic store, they did the. I'm talking about the Kickstarter that we just wrapped up for the 100 Days Anthology, the Werewolves and Unicorns. So I know my local comic book store, they got they purchased like the, what do you call it, the retailer pack. So they've got some of those books that, and I've got some. I'll be getting some of the books and everything. So I'll probably do a like kind of a I don't know if you call it a launch party, but once we get those books, I'll probably do a signing for those and everything. And but it's cool. It's cool to do that. And there's there's some really cool local artists here that that I'm trying to get out and meet some of those. I actually sent I think Jake Parker. I heard Jake Parker moved out to Arizona, so I did send him because it sounded like on one of his podcasts he was looking to sort of build, kind of grow the artistic community out here, the creative community. So I did send him a message, but even on his website, he basically says on his website, I'm probably not going to respond to you. So yeah, he's pretty busy. But he said he was looking to kind of get that going, so I figured I'd reach out, and if he contacts me, great. If not, that's fine. Maybe I'll run into him somewhere. But yeah, but there's a lot of cool artists. I mean, Victor's here. Ape Sapien is also here locally, who's also sometimes in the chat, and I've got who else? Vincent DePorter, who we've had on the show. He was doing SpongeBob, and he's just an amazing cartoonist. He's here. Eric Henson, who does Eden for Alterna. He's local here. And then there's some other ones like there was some kind of book by, is it Marat Michaels, I think he used to be like, he was like an image guy under like Extreme Studios. I heard that he's out here, and of course Todd McFarlane is out here, and there's just a bunch of, there's pretty decent comic book, a lot of also is it Brian Pledue? I forgot how to pronounce his last name. But he does Chaos Comics and Lady Death and all that stuff. I forgot how to pronounce his last name. But anyway, he's out here. So there's a lot of comic people out here. But let's see. So anyway, so yeah, so now I'm starting to dig some of the color, because I think that these greens are helping it pop out, because otherwise he was pretty gray, in appearance. So that's going to help that out a little bit. Polito, yeah, okay, there. I was like, and I've said it before, like tons of times. It wasn't clicking for me or something. Let's see. All right. Hold on a second. I'm gonna get a drink here. Let's see. So, yeah, we're getting close to wrapping this up. So if you guys have anything else you want to know before we do wrap everything up, now's the time to get those questions in, because like I said, the drawing and everything is pre-recorded. So once it runs out, you know, it'll just kick back into the pre-recorded outro. So it's if you got questions, you got to get them in now, because otherwise, you know, this thing is just kind of on a roll and I can't stop it once it goes. So it's a little different than your typical live stream, but I'm kind of digging this format. So let's see. But yeah, I'm gonna have to, let's see, I will have to get, I've got my white pen. I'm gonna go in and add some highlights and things here. But I don't know if there's anything. I'm just kind of, now that I'm looking back over this character, I'm just trying to think of what, if anything, I would have done differently. And again, I think the fins are a big thing. I'm probably going to go in and maybe even add those fins to this drawing, and then definitely the gills. I'm gonna add those gills. But other than that, and I don't know, you can't really see his back. He's got sort of the shark fin on the back of his head, but I don't know. Maybe he has a fin off to his back that you can't see too. That might, you know, that might make sense. But yeah, all in all, I'm pretty happy with it, and I think it stands up next to the other merfolk character, and I like it because there's a decent variety, especially when I get around to designing the tropical people. I think those are going to be even more different. I think this particular, you know, race of merfolk, I think there's a good variety between all the different races. So hopefully I can continue that on with some of the other ones. I'll have to kind of dive into, you know, some of these and see what some of the differences and everything are. And let's see. So I'm just like, right now I'm looking at the people that are sort of, this is the Magnolian, which are sort of like the flower people, just for future reference. So there's the herbal, which are tropical, or typically dull in color due to the lack of flowery features. Let's see, and then there's the orchid, which are the most common. Their flowering structures are typically large and colorful, and then the thorned. So yeah, so I mean, in addition to leaf and flower structures, their bodies of these Magnolians also have thorns and spines and sharpness. So yeah, there's definitely a good variety here. So I think moving forward with some of these other characters, yeah, it's really interesting. I'm really looking forward to designing some of these other characters and everything. I'm just kind of going through them now. Yeah, there's some cool stuff here. So, and you know, I've got some that I kind of, now that I'm kind of on a roll doing these, I've already designed some that I didn't record, so I might have to just redo them just for the live stream. Like, I know I did like one of the turtle characters, and I know I recorded the inking of it, but I don't know if I recorded the actual you know, the penciling and everything. So I'll have to see what, you know, what I'm gonna do with those. But anyway, yeah, it's so cool. So Tally says he needs piercings. Yeah, I definitely did consider that, and maybe he doesn't really have. He doesn't have ears or anything. He could have something through the nose, maybe, or I don't know if it would make sense to have like if I do add the gills, if there's like a piercing on the gills with that. I mean, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, he definitely I think he needs some. Maybe through the nose might be the best way to do that. But yeah, but I did consider that. And again, I mean, this is just one of, you know, what could be hundreds of thousands of these different people, and they're all, you know, even if they're all part of a tribe, they're all, I would imagine they would all have some individuals, like markings and things like that. So, but yeah, I'm kind of digging the way it came out. It's kind of cool to have this design of the character that I'm actually going to be playing. So, it kind of helps. It helps. I mean, and of course you can imagine all this stuff in your head, and I kind of did. And even when you get the little sheets to put all your stats and things on, there's a little place where you can sort of do a sketch of your character. And I did a very basic sketch, but it's kind of cool to have this. It's a little little more detailed and everything. So yeah, it's pretty cool. It's going to be fun, kind of playing with this character now that I've got a better understanding of what he looks like and everything. And it's going to be fun designing some of these, other versions. So I'll have to find out. I'm trying to remember some of the other characters people are playing, because I don't think any of them are ones that I've already drawn. So I can kind of kill two birds with one stone, and like say whatever character my brother has, I'll just make that as an official design for the I don't know what you call a rule book or whatever. What's that called? What is it called, Parker? The book that has all the information in it. A handbook? Is it called a handbook? I don't know. But anyway, so but yeah, he's looking pretty cool. I'm pretty happy with the way this came out. Let's see. So yeah, I'm looking at the chat, and it's cool that you guys are talking amongst yourself. I mean, it's so cool to see communities being built and kind of friendships being made and people asking people questions and things. I mean, that's great. I mean, I really want to continue to grow, this chat and everything. And I think if I start doing more, handbook, rule book, something along that vein. Okay, cool. Yeah, but I think if I continue to do more of these live streams, and let me know if you guys are digging the live streams, and then we'll also kind of see. Also, if you aren't in the chat, if you're watching this sort of after the fact, because this will get quite a few more views. More people will actually watch it in its sort of recorded state than they will watching it live. So don't be afraid to leave comments in the comment section of the video and everything, because I'll definitely try to check those and everything, and let me know kind of what you want to see. But for right now, I think I'm just going to continue doing some of these characters. Because it's good for me. It'll give my son some stuff for his game, and it give me some content and everything. So I don't know, but I think we're getting close to wrapping this thing up. So Maria says she loves the live streams. Thank you, Maria. So yeah, there's definitely going to be more to come. So thanks everyone in the live stream, and we'll catch you next time around, probably next week. And happy 4th of July, anyone in the United States. Happy Independence Day. I'm going to do some barbecue or something like that. I don't know exactly when this thing is going to end.
All right, so there you go. That is my character design that I am actively playing right now for my son's role-playing game that he's developed called Fable Seed, and yeah, it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun to be involved in this. Something entirely new to me, but I'm kind of digging it. So who knows? I might be one of those. When I watched Stranger Things, I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. I was watching them play D&D and everything, but I really know nothing about that world. But I guess I'm getting a little closer into that, which is kind of cool. But yeah, I want to know your opinions on character design, how you guys approach it, how you develop your own characters. Let me know in the comments section, and I will see you guys later. That is all.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you like what you saw and you want to see more, hit that subscribe button. Also, you can follow me at Circworks on social media. Do you like making comics? Then go to Circworks.com and pick up the Comic Maker Starter Kit. It's packed full of fonts, brushes, templates, and more. And best of all, it's totally free.